Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Karen again with Naturally with Karen. And the sun is coming out over here. I just can hardly wait to get outside. It was about 71 earlier, and I like it nice and warm and balmy where everyone else is complaining about the humidity. I like it nice and humid and moist air. So it's all around you. What's around you? Well, here's what it looks like for me. And I'm giving you this live stream because I want you to be able to see it through a different lens, okay? Maybe you see it this way already and maybe you don't, but let's get started. Okay? I might go out, I'm going to go out and go about my day. I've been to the post office, I've been to the dollar store, I went and got some gas and all the things that we normally do on a day-to-day basis. I walked into the little convenience store called Holiday here in Cloquet, Minnesota. And all around me are people picking up big jugs of cow milk, okay? Something that's been squeezed out of a cow's breasts that is meant for a baby cow. So you might be listening to this and go, well, that's really offensive to me because I really like cow milk and I think it's good for me. And how am I going to get my calcium? You're not going to get your calcium from nursing on a cow. I've been teaching this for 35 years. I've not been using cow milk for 35 years. And as someone who's 58 years old this week, I'm doing just fine. In fact, the few times that I have doctored, I've been pretty assured that my bones are pretty darn good for someone getting close to 60. I can fall down on my knees just like Dr. Sabi did. And so here's the deal. Cow milk, people are going in and buying tornadoes and everything in a plastic wrapper and everything that's been wrapped up and packaged and sitting under lights. And people are living on this food. So then when you go to Walmart, you see people pushing their carts. You see all this Mountain Dew and the Mountain Dew Code Red, and you see the Sprite, and you see especially women in my age with cases or cold packs, whatever they're called, big cardboard boxes of 12 or 24 Diet Coke. And yet when these ladies come in and they do a hair tissue mineral analysis, right? We get a report. I'm going to pick one up here and just kind of cover up the name like I normally do because I didn't really think I was going to put this on here. But let me just show you this one, okay? So on the blue section here, and my birthday special right now is $175 for this test. It's about 10 to 12 pages. I'm going to get your metabolic type, all your nutritional elements, all your toxic heavy metals. And you might be saying, well, how in the hell am I going to get that out of my hair? That doesn't even sound right. But this is an EPA-approved lab called Trace Elements. And really the key golden part of the whole thing is my 35 years of experience coaching and helping people through detoxification and reversing disease. And so if you've been drinking Diet Coke, if you say to yourself, you know what, I'm like 23, 25, I'm 30, I'm 35, I'm 40. And I know for a fact that my mom had to get back to work. And so I was raised on baby formula, rice cereals. I was eating baby food out of a jar. Then I was, graduated into Subway and buttered noodles and pizza and frozen pizza at home most nights and lots of pasta, lots and lots and lots of wheat and sugar and processed foods. Don't count on your bones and these minerals that are called nutritional because every trace element is a mineral or a toxic element. So they're all trace elements, meaning you only need a little bit of them inside of your body, okay? So in this case, you can see this particular person who's an elder, who's 67, the calcium is the Ca level over here. See, it's not quite, where we want it to be. Now, each one of these nutritional elements or minerals has a synergistic and an antagonistic. So it works really well with another mineral and has another mineral that kind of brings it down so it keeps it in balance. So keeping it in balance is called a ratio. So for example, if you had too much lead in your body, I'm going to use one of three things that are all natural to help you to bring that lead out of your body, along with, in your coaching session, helping you to change a few things about your diet so your body can do it more quickly and more easily. If you look at this one, this gentleman's out of the country right now, but is going to be doing some extensive coaching with me when he gets back here towards the end of the month or beginning of August. And take a look here in the red section, right? And you can see his cadmium. The abbreviation for that is CD. See how high it is up in the red zone? Now, he had a transient ischemic attack. You call it a mini stroke or a TIA. And he had several things happen. And the doctors, he told me, put him through 10 different MRI and CT scans, all of which used contrast. In fact, he went in there demanding. And now that he knows better, and he knows that he could have done a really simple test like this, and we could have gotten to the heart of the problem or the root of the problem, he's much happier having paid the $125. He's a local. If you order it off my website at Naturally with Karen, it's $135. But I've got a special deal going on because it was my birthday on Thursday. I turned 58. And on my birthday, the night before, I reduced my combination package, which is a 30-minute consult and your hair test for $175. So instead of you paying, for the hour or the half-hour consult for $95 and the hair test for $135, you're going to pay $175 for the whole thing. And I will guarantee you can go to my Facebook page, you can do anything you want and say, or come to my YouTube channel and say, I actually got one and that didn't work for me. But I guarantee you will be so happy. I have a couple of people coming on that are going to be doing testimonials that are very free and open and direct. A young man who I sensed a brain mass 3 years ago, and finally convinced him to do a hair test. He's 23 now. He was pretty young. The doctors confirmed that he had a brain mass and that he could possibly be dead by the age of 32. And sometimes it's like pulling teeth. You know that expression? It's like pulling teeth to get people to do this for themselves. Like they'll go to the buffet, they'll go to the casino, they'll go buy a new car, they'll go buy lots of clothes, they'll go get eyelashes and fingernails and all those things. But then something breaks. And they're stuck in a situation having to use drugs because now it went too far, okay? So if you look around you on the average day, I walked into a transportation company and the lady at the counter was telling me about her migraines. The other man on the other side was telling me about his weight problems and how he just feels so sluggish and he can't seem to lose weight. If I start speaking with someone over at the Dollar Tree, I find out that they're trying her on new allergy medications. Now, in my mind, I know you're suffering. I know you're in pain. But if one person was allergic to the trees, the dander, the dogs, the cats, the this, the that, and I'm talking about anything in the natural world, then every single one of us would be allergic, except that you've heard the terminology autoimmune. And that means the self is starting to attack your own self, okay? That's all that means. That means that you have accumulated enough sick, ill, and toxicity inside of yourself, and you're asking for help. So another lady that I met at the Dollar Tree, actually today, I was speaking with her, and she showed me a can of, I think it was Arid deodorant, whatever's at the dollar store, one of my family members is opioid addicted, and I was stopping to get shaving cream and razors and also a few paper towels because I've got a pack of 3 dogs here at the house. And as much as I went many years without using more paper towels, I kind of need them right now. I'm doing some really deep level cleaning. So anyway, she told me, did you know that if you use this deodorant, it'll really take down your mosquito bite? And I said, but at what cost? And she said, what do you mean? And I said, well, I don't want to put more aluminum on my body. I do a lot of hair testing. It's actually called hair tissue mineral analysis. And your hair is coming up closest to this blood in the brain, the blood-brain barrier blood. So as the hair starts to extrude, it contains data of about 3 months worth on it. So we get the first 1.5 inches in the crown. the two temporal areas and the occiput in the back. Okay. And so, funky hair here. And so, if you don't have scalp hair, you could also use pubic hair. If you don't have scalp or pubic hair, which I have clients that don't, because they have an iron excess disease called hemochromatosis, then we take finger or toenail clippings. And you get a little scale. I sent them out this morning, or this rise to people. And she could clip off her fingernails, put them on the little cardboard scale that you put on your counter. It's all super, 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 super easy. Dump those into the collection envelope, whether it's scalp hair, pubic hair, or nails, right? Or ancillary hair. It could also be chest hair. Some guys have like a lot of chest hair and they could cut that super the closest to the skin too and put that down on the scale. You need about a teaspoon total. Put it in the collection envelope and you're going to mail it back to me in the self-addressed stamped envelope, and I'm going to get it to the lab and I'm going to send you off an email patient report. Okay, it's going to look just like this one, and I'm going to show you a couple more things here. So imagine for the woman who's got the migraine, if I was to show her that more than likely her estrogen levels are high based on what I see on the trace elements. Wouldn't that be great? I mean, if you knew of the doctors that have preceded me that are no longer around, that traveled this whole country in America teaching about how high estrogen contributed to cancer. Do you remember that? Because I was voraciously reading their work. So now, if you've got, I'll cover this person's name. You know, you may have a slow or a fast metabolism, but it's going to tell you exactly what yours is. Okay. And then it's also going to go into the health trends. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link down below. You guys have heard of stones, right? Like kidney stones, gallstones, what else? Bladder stones, right? So those are called calculus. And you can see that on his report here, he's going into a lot of calculus, which calcifications, making a lot of stones, okay? So everywhere I go, I'm hearing people speak with me about their health problems, their wellness issues. What about gynecological issues too, like endometriosis and PCOS, fibroids, infertility, heavy bleeding, PMS, painful periods? I like to call them moon cycles. A period is the end of a sentence. You know, we don't want to be sentenced and we don't want this to be the end. So PCOS is simply that your body was missing trace elements and that your diet needs a few changes. And all of a sudden, that anxiety, that depression, and all the cysts that start collecting on your ovaries go away. It's that simple. If you say to me, I'm not willing to change my diet at all, I'm not willing to get a hair test, well, then you're probably a good candidate for the doctor who's going to put you on a diabetic medication called metformin. Or eventually you're just going to bleed out so much they're going to try cervical ablations on you, uterine ablations, and it's going to cut your periods back for a while. They're going to get really out of cycle and your body's going to go, well, you didn't really heal me. What you did was stuff the symptoms down. You made it so I'd stop bleeding and telling you I need help. I need more minerals. I need balance. I need detoxification. So now imagine how I feel with a family member who's opioid addicted, right? First it was anxiety, then it was depression. It was tons and tons and tons of cannabis use because that starts to quell all the problems for a little while. And then it's exploring with Xanax because Xanax was typically prescribed as an anti-anxiety. It still is today, to my knowledge. Absolutely horrible because of the addiction and the hallucinations and the difficulty of transitioning off of a drug like that and the dependence that it creates. So what we're doing is creating a mass of disabled people. And then the solutions that seem to be solutions are to place them into HRAs and group homes and assisted livings and to reduce their functionality. So Their ability to function and contribute and be strong is being weakened and weakened and weakened until we just warehouse them. And this is absolutely the opposite of what I want to do. I want to work with people who say, that is not what I want. So then after an accident created the classic story of opioid addiction, which is a surgery comes, pain medications are given and given and given and given. And for the person who already had, which is the majority of people, has anxiety, they want to hold on to that good feeling. That feels too good. So pretty soon when they're cut off, because the doctor's like, well, that's enough. I mean, I'm going to risk getting in trouble now because it's pretty patently obvious I'm basically creating addiction here. I'm creating dependence. We'll leave it at that. Okay. And we all know this is the case. Not that all doctors are bad, not that all doctors are trying to create addicts, but it is happening here and there, correct? So now that that's the case, we have a person who's degenerated into anxiety and depression, who's now degenerated into excessive amounts of cannabis, which is probably the least of the worry, right? Cannabis is still a medicine. There's still the endocannabinoid receptor agreement. That's copacetic. We have all these things that are happening that are positive, except that we're smoking. And when we're smoking and vaping and dabbing, we're not doing our thyroid much love. We'll put it that way. So anything like that with hot smoke, vaping is not going to be conducive to your thyroid. So edibles, tinctures, topicals, juicing cannabis leaves that are raw, if you can do that legally where you live. I mean, what a shame that I've been advocating for raw cannabis juice for decades. Bless up, Kim. And that we're not able to juice cannabis leaves, which are a plant, because of a dominator monopoly. So now, if this person had already come to this level, what would I do as a healer? What would you do if you had a person in that situation that you loved, whether it was your mother, your father, your child, your adult child, your aunt, your uncle, your coworker, your partner, your husband, your wife? What would you do? Where would you start? Where would you begin? Well, you see, the more and the more and the more the person becomes degenerated, the more inflexible the brain is, because that's what got them in anxiety and depression to begin with. So now the more inflexible that they are, the more chances that you have that they're going to resist what you have to say. No, thank you. I don't want to do that. I don't want to take those pills. I don't want to do these things you're talking about. And now it becomes harder and harder and harder to reach them and to say, and it's worrisome and it's stressful. And you're wondering what poor decision they're going to make next. Are they going to keep giving and selling their plasma so they can get more drug money, so they can keep themselves medicated? Because we have, not me, but we as a whole, under the umbrella of medical monopoly, have taught our people for many, many, many decades, at least since 1914, since the majority of the hospitals were constructed and tax exempted and put into place as viable businesses making trillions of dollars. Just think about the IV bags that are reusable plastic little drip bags with water and salt most of the time, that your insurance companies get billed $600 to $800. Okay, just think for a moment. Just think outside the box. Now, what would a doctor do? Well, if you go in for an overdose or a racing heart, or your endocrine system is now all catawampus because, you've degenerated yourself past anxiety and depression and cannabis use, and you've gone into opioid addiction, and now you're doing all these things, and you're selling your plasma, you're running around, you're making bad choices, you're maybe injecting now, you've gone past the snorting, the smoking, and now you're injecting. The doctors are going to use whatever's going to use right now to stop it, and they may use Ativan. They might use something else. They might use clonidine. They might use gabapentin. They might use any of these things. Gabapentin, you may know it, formerly known as Neurontin. It was used for a lot of nerve pain, so it's a pretty substantial blocker. So what's going on is, instead of us connecting with nature, and you might say, oh God, there she goes droning on and on again about nature. Let me tell you something that really is never really discussed. And it's something that I've taken younger people under my wing, take the dogs, the pack, and we go out into nature on a trail out there, which now I feel less and less and less inclined and comfortable to do. I wish I had my sis Pure Luminosity, because together with she and I and Ari and my son and the dogs and maybe a few more people like Russell, we'd be out there on the trails with the plants respirating. So you see, if you walk out like Kim posted, with Linda Black Elk, and you are walking and getting whipped by the stinging nettles, which we used to do when I was in herbal school almost 20 years ago, you might want to look up Christopher Hobbs and Michael Tierra were my instructors. Not only did the stinging nettles that whipped your legs, so if you were out there in your shorts, they've got little stingers. They're on the outside of the plant. And what does that do? But that's the plant, which is another living spirit. The plants are spirits, okay? You're walking out in the bush or on the trail or whatever, and they're kind of stinging you a little bit. They're giving you their medicine. So many, many years, for decades now, I've shown people the dogs, as Pablo's looking at me, will go out and find their own medicine, and I will watch them strip the bark. Luna, who's over half wolf, will hold it with her dew claws, and she'll strip the bark, and then I'll sit there and she'll sit there and carefully eat the medicine as we go deep, deep into the bush. But we're not doing it as much, because one of the last times we went out, there was someone who was using meth and came really, kind of chasing in front of us, and Luna had to kind of back him off. And I keep running into more and more people way out in the bush that are sleeping out there and living out there that are drug abusers. And it makes it a little bit more risky for the dogs and myself. So nobody wants to go out there and have to feel like they have to just always be prepared to defend themselves. So all the different combination of plants that are respirating, they're giving off their medicine, right? Ideally, at the center, a detox center for those that have gotten off their path through medications and drugs on the street, because now they can't get their hands on medications, okay? And I would like to see heroin actually become legal. So if you're listening and you have a lot of wherewithal and a lot of knowledge about what's going on with the opioid crisis, heroin should be legal. And we'll talk about that in another live stream, but that's my opinion. For right now, it could change. You're going to go out first thing as you rise up in the first part of the day, which you call the morning, right? You're going to go out and do the walk. After we've had our water and our probiotic, we're going to go out and walk with Mama Earth, out into nature, okay? We're going to let our hair down or push it back as I'm doing. We're going to go out there and we're going to breathe the medicine from the plants, okay? We're going to walk on the earth with hopefully open-toed shoes, unless it's too messy. Go out with the dogs and everyone and get a smile on our face and start our day and feel safe, because we're in with numbers of people. We're going to go back to the center. We're going to start our juicing and get our Irish moss cooking for the week, right? For the strong. We're going to do all these things so that the participants in the center they understand what they're going to continue to do, or some graduates could eventually, not in the beginning, stay with the center and help it to grow and eventually go out and start their own centers. So then eventually this whole movement is less about money or a business or employment, as it becomes a model worthy of imitation. A model worthy of imitation starts to show us that, wait a minute, would we be going to the grocery store and buying food that we could barely afford, that's manhandled by the clerks and run through the scanners, and that takes us time to get in our, fossil fuel burning vehicles and go park and go put our quarter in for our cart and go in there into kind of a toxic building, actually, with toxic recycled air, and pick from foods that have been handled and prematurely picked off of the trees? No, we wouldn't. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So for 50 something years, as I look at Pablo, looking at me like, Mama, are we going out? The sun came out. Grandma to Pablo. They know that we only needed to eat very simply. They know that the sunshine is our food. I mean, I just bask in the sunshine. I love it. Okay. And no one wants to go through some of these stressors with opioid addiction, with overdosing, with all of this. I wouldn't want it to have cut off my hair, to have been stressed out, to have gained stress hormone weight, to lose all the sleep, to, burning out my vehicle and burning out my hours and not sitting down in a loving space and just writing out my books. But they're distractions and traps. And if you think they're not real, you're wrong, because they know exactly how to target people. Okay. So everywhere I go, whether it's a transportation company and the migraines, it's Walmart and I run into someone, I come upon someone that I know and they're telling me all about their surgery, their hip replacement, their knee replacement. I go to the gym. If I go to the gym in the morning, which I've been getting outside more often with the weather being as lovely as it is, and all I hear in the background, my doctor, I'm going to my doctor tomorrow. And he says I'm going to, and I speak with people and they could take a hair tissue mineral analysis, right? You go get your blood tested, you expose your arm and they stick a needle here in the crook of your arm and someone reads, it's like reading tarot cards, someone reads your blood test, right? And they tell you based on ranges that are established by who, because I did insurance defense law for 2 years at a law firm called Robinson and Wood in San Jose, California, as a legal secretary. Okay, so I got to know insurance defense law, how insurance companies work. I got a very intimate, close up understanding of how insurance companies work. The people who set the values and the ranges on your blood test are the insurance companies. They decide who's going to get picked up and who's going to be medicated and who is not, in a system that you often refer to as evidence-based. Well, all the evidence I need is to walk into Walmart, to walk into any business, any school, any nursing home, any assisted living, any group home, any HRA, any convenience store, any Whole Foods, anywhere, any place, anytime. And what I observe and what I hear are people that are not doing well. I'm on no medications. I have no mental, physical, or other diagnoses, handicaps, medications. 35 years I haven't had Tylenol or an NSAID, and SAID, a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory, in my medicine cabinet of any kind. Okay. No, I did not come in gifted. This is not a gift. When I get off, my train gets off the tracks, right? And I do things I'm not supposed to do through stress and self-sabotage and procrastination, I get myself back on. And that's what I'm going to encourage you to do too. So when you get a whole report, and yours is going to come, through an email, that's the way I do them. I'm not doing the hard copies anymore. As of the last ones I sent out this last week, they're only going to be coming email because as I prepare to get mobile, it's not going to be possible to do things like that. So we can do special arrangement that way, but otherwise you'll have to print them off yourself. Was reading about heroin, I guess. It's not refined, concentrated. Right. So if we take the actual substance from the flower, from the poppy, right, and we look at opium and we distill that down, was that a pain reliever that was given to children and toddlers by Bayer? Yes, it was. We discussed that. But now what's going on is this infusion of slipping it in with fentanyl. And it's not just fentanyl, because my loved one actually overdosed again twice in the last 5 days at the hospital. And the doctors did a blood test and found out that there was actually cocaine and something else. And at one time there was actually a little bit of ketamine. So you don't know what people are cutting this with, but when people feel like they're literally going to die because they'd rather die than face how it feels, so as our population is more and more sick, ill, and toxic, even though they look great on the outside, they're buying shoes and they're doing all these things and they're just kind of keeping up with the Joneses, eventually it hits them, just like it did with my client and her son when they went down to Florida. And he's in the hospital for a week and they're running test after test after test after test, and nobody knows what's wrong. And yet I could have done a hair tissue test for people ahead of time so they could have enjoyed their vacation. Okay. So they could have enjoyed their vacation. So if you believe for a moment that you went 30, 35 years on cow milk, cheese, pizza, baby formula, rushing around, stress, being busy, selling your hours at a just over broke, a job, a job. My dad used to always call them a just over broke. Don't get a just over broke unless you have to. If you're going to do that, Karen, go work for the state or the federal government. And I was like, oh, heck no, I'm not doing that. So it's like pulling teeth for me to go get a just over broke, because I will resist until the last possible moment, because it's not something I really want to do. And it's not because I'm lazy, but it's because I study every day. I write answers on Quora. I get out with the dogs. I help the family member with the opioid crisis. I go do massages. I do my coaching. And nobody wants to go get a just over broke and sell the hours of their life when they're close to 60, when they're a very talented medicine person. So anyway, it is what it is. It's all because of the cost of living. And so whether you have migraines, you have fibromyalgia, you've got thyroid problems, you've got cancer, you've got PCOS or PCOD, because it's polycystic ovarian syndrome or disease, you have fibroids, and you have a fibrous uterus, okay? Why do you have fibroids in your uterus? Well, because fibroid and fibromyalgia, right? And fibrocystic means what? That your mucousy cysts have now developed a fibrin or a fibrous coating. It's like a pan. You have a pan, and if you get the pan and you put a nonstick coating, a Teflon coating, now you've put a coating over the pan, and you're probably not, the eggs and stuff aren't going to reach into the pan underneath the coating, because the coating is protecting, it's sealing the pan, and it's giving you the benefit of your foods that you're cooking not sticking to it. But as we discovered long ago, because I used to have big wild birds that I would rescue in my house, I had a huge, beautiful Moluccan cockatoo that a guy had cramped in a cage. He lost his toe and he was just hissing and pissed, and nobody wanted him. And the guy was selling him for $600. And I was like, oh, but I really wanted to save the bird. And I hadn't had a child yet. So this is over 25 years ago, at the San Jose flea market, or the fairgrounds. They had a big bird show there, and I'd never had a big bird like that. I don't believe I should own a big bird like that. I don't own any other lives, but I brought Max home, was his name. And eventually I started just letting him out of the cage, hoping he wouldn't fly out and attack me. And I was living in Chemaquita Park in Los Gatos. If you look it up, Chemaquita Park is stellar. And it was like this woodsy house, it was made all out of wood and everything. It's on Indian ground. And so I'd start letting him out, and I'd start working with him, hoping that his really powerful beak wasn't going to break my finger off, and I'm home by myself, and I'm thinking, oh my God. So I start working with Max, even though he's going, and he's hissing at me really big time. And I just calmed him down. And eventually I brought him to an avian veterinarian. Her name is Fern, and she's in Los Gatos, and she has Max. I believe to this day. I should follow up with her. It's been a couple of years, but she took Max and paired Max with a female, and it was the best possible outcome. Like, people say, well, I thought you had birds. And I'm like, well, he went to Fern, And so, I mean, what better could he have that he got a mate? He got to be in a super huge aviary, and he got to live with a bird veterinarian. So, oh my gosh, it's just a happy, happy thing. So I like to help make happy happy, happy, happy lives for people, for birds, for dogs. And really, ordering your hair test is going to get you on the road to figuring out what's going on before you break. So, thank you for joining me. I'm going to ask you, because I had a young man helping me yesterday. I'm not able to live on Facebook. And he said, I can get on the dark web. And he did this out of the spirit of love with his heart. And it's $72 to get you 1,000 to 2,000 YouTube subscribers for per day. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I really want to do this organically. I want to do it naturally. Like, I want real people on my channel who really, really want to hear what I have to offer, because I've worked really hard for this. Like, I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but for almost 17 years, I supported my son after being a high-level paralegal and having my own office in judges' chambers and working directly with the DA, Alan D. Filippo, and Julie Kohler, the research attorney, and Merced DA. And so I had a lot of the illusion of power, right? I only needed to use my brain and write out persuasive documents, moving papers, and win court cases, and go talk and to judges in camera. And everyone was afraid of the judges that I helped, 7 judges, especially Judge Stevens in Santa Cruz. They just, I can't believe you got him. It's like, are you kidding me? He wipes his butt like I do, and I just love him and respect him, and it's all good. So I don't have that same intimidation a lot of people do when it comes to like powerful people, because I'm powerful and so are you, okay? But then when I moved to Minnesota to look for a lesser cost of living, and I left California like so many other people did, and I was going to the Twin Cities, but I got convinced to stay in Little Cloquet. And sadly, there are positives and there are negatives, okay? One is that there's not the flexible, super, super open-minded people in the majority of this place. The positives are that it's very, very, very slowed down, less congested. So I like both of those. And yet I don't like some, and I like other benefits about it, right? But very, 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 very difficult. And so I got into a situation where I had to just really use my mind to figure out, how is it that they can't hear me? Like, what am I doing wrong? And why am I being called a witch, right? Because I've developed these intuitive abilities beyond just the eyeballs and the nose and the mouth and the tongue and the ears and the feelers, right? You don't have these glands up here for no good reason. Those glands, when they are anointed, means that what a gland does is it's a secretor. It secretes. So for example, your pituitary gland, the P-shaped gland in the middle, in the middle of the brain, straight down in here, it secretes what? It helps you to secrete thyroid hormone. If your pituitary gland isn't secreting to come down to your thyroid gland, the doctors are going to put you thyroxine. It's going to what? They're going to put you on levo, just like levodopa for Parkinson's patients, levothyroxine, a synthetic man-made hormone that your own glands would have secreted for you. So my job, and I love my job, I absolutely thrive on my job, because it's like every day, it's like a mystery that I'm helping someone, and I want to help them quickly, because if I don't, and I know it takes some time, it's not just a pill, they're like, well, I don't know if I should be paying for this. But then over a little bit of time, just like you'll see with Gabby on my Facebook page at Naturally with Karen, 1 month, 3 little consultations, 1 hair test, less than $500, and horrible facial swelling going into Parkinson's and everything else. And in 1 month, from June the 8th to July the 9th, massive change, to the point that everyone started noticing it, to the point that she was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And I told her, you might want to keep doing this, because it's going to take us 3 to 6 months to undo 37 years and a lot of environmental toxicity. 3 to 6 months? for something that you'll be able to now become your own physician. Not that you have to give up the doctor. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. I did. You don't have to. But she's going to know what to do, not only for her, but for her son, for her husband, for her family. So now her parents have come, her son has come, her brother's coming. Okay. And there's hundreds of people. There's Denny Wita. There's Ernestina, who testified testimonial on lupus after having lupus 27 years in San Jose, back home, right? There's my own ovarian cancer. There's infertility. There's PCOS. There's myasthenia gravis. I could keep going. There's Brian Marshall in Duluth, who's an amazing guy. He's a pastor, 31 years, and 85% of his body was covered with the worst case of psoriasis I've ever seen in my entire life. His hands were red and the skin was just peeling off of him when I said, "May I?" And I put my hands over his hands and he said, "Well, yeah, but no one's really ever wanted to touch me." And I said, "But I do. I'm not afraid." So people have come onto my table, as I started to say earlier, with big bodied, okay, yeasty toenails, smells, okay, sometimes a hole and an ostomy bag, with many, many, many situations. And I too, at one point, was green. We'll use a plant terminology. And I didn't know what I was doing. Betty Sorella came in the beginning around 2003, and she said, "I've got small cell cancer. I'm a nighttime nurse at St. Mary's, which is now called Essentia Hospital in Duluth. I'm going to die within 6 months. My husband and my grandson that I'm raising don't know how to care for me or nurture me, and I want some nurture on my way out." That's exactly what Betty said to me. "I want to come here for an hour and a half once a week, and I want you to take care of me as I prepare to die." That's a pretty big order in your 40s when you hadn't done this work like that, right? I hadn't done massage for that many years. I didn't know the Minnesota people and the culture. I hadn't built some relationship with her for years and years. I was just getting to know her. And I also had a young child at home myself. And I just did what came to me intuitively. And now this is the work that I want to bring. I've helped people to die. I've helped people to live. I've helped people with the best that I had inside of me. And maybe they'd waited too long, or maybe they'd given up. Okay. Just a small, less than 5 of my clients didn't make it. Okay. A Parkinson's disease of 4 years on 4 medications. The man did not make it. But once they enter the hospital, and the hospital says, "Well, you can't eat, you might have silent aspiration, you might have this, you might have that," and they start testing and testing and testing with all the contrast dye and everything else, it's kind of a done deal. So iatrogenic, meaning hospital or doctor-induced issues, sometimes happen. People have believed in placebo for a very long time. So I'm going to go ahead and end it. I have massaged and massaged and massaged and used these hands for almost 17 years just in Minnesota, helping people to manually move excess weight, inflammation, mucus, cysts, and everything else in the body. I've worked their toes and milked their toes, meaning you take the thumb and the first finger and you come around with my shea butter. It's called Luminous, just like Pure Luminosity. She has it for sale if you want to. I don't sell it, but if you'll subscribe to Pure Luminosity, I've been teaching Kim quite a bit, and she knew quite a bit as well. I don't take all the credit, but I'll go in there and just milk the toes, and I know exactly which toes correlate to brain, to not just the reflexology, but the toes themselves will actually, I can get a neck to release. So I wish there was another me that could work on me with my neck started getting stiff about a year and a half ago, and Kim was the first person to really notice it, that I was kind of, favoring it. And now it's really stuck. And I think it's because on a mind body level, I'm stuck right here on my scapula, and I've been dealing with a pain in the neck. I mean, it's a pain in the neck to deal with stuff you don't want to deal with and you just want it to be over. But we love our people, and that's what we do. So there was many, 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 many days that I would have rather been outside in the sunshine with my son than be in a dark room and rubbing someone who's toxic, who you've asked for 10, 12, or more years could you please consider changing your diet? Because when I was in California, I was massaging people that were plant-based, vegan, vegetarians, limber, living close to the ocean, outside and walking all the time. And it's a really big difference than lifting up an extremely heavy arm, an arm that can't go up and all the way around, an arm that's impinged, it can only go to here. So then they'll be telling you all about their rotator cuff surgeries and how they had to have their knee and hip replacements and their shoulder. And then they've got to go in and do a cut back here because now they're so impinged and they can't freely, they can't lift up their arms over their head and bring them over, like you would with yoga. So I went and became a certified yoga teacher in 2015 because I'd done yoga for 25, 30 years before my son was born in 95. And I wanted to be able to have that certification in a world today that sees everything as needing to fall under the umbrella of credentialism, which is absolutely insane to me. But, we can't just sell or trade our food anymore because now the ability to stay trading has been shunted and minimized because they want to make dang sure that you're certified, licensed, taxed, bonded, and that people are protected. But what's really going on is you're being shafted. That's the game. That's how monopoly runs, right? Somebody tries to hurry up and get all the properties and hurry up and go around go and hurry up and get all the money. So then what? They can wield the power over the board, the motherboard. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get outside. And I wish I was here. Oh my gosh, Kim, I wish you were here. Oh, I wish we were closer so much. Pablo is so cute. He's just sitting over there like, Grandma. Anyway, big thank you to Pure Luminosity and to Kim. And we're all just doing the best that we can. And I am so 100 legit. I want you guys to subscribe because you want to subscribe. It sure would have been easier to pay $5, get my 1,000 subscribers and take my phone out today. I would have loved that. But I know if you don't do things the right way, it feels would have felt a lot nicer to just, I got 1,000 subscribers. I'm going to go use my phone. But I'm not fake. I'm not being hoisted up by a publishing house, a house. My house is a house of spirit and nature law. And I want to do things the right way because I'm not a perfect person, neither are you, but I want to do my best so that, by the time I reach a certain age and get to my 9th moon, that you'll have enough trust in me and the center will be here and it'll be a model worthy of imitation. And then I'll have the funds to be able to say, I think we have other choices and you'll know what those are. So thank you for joining me. Please support me. Please tell other people about the hair testing. Please subscribe. So I want to do this organically. And please also go over and compliment me and subscribe to my sis Kim at Pure Luminosity. Thank you so much. And you have a wonderful day.